Hi, this is Chris O'Malley, and this episode we're actually going to talk about the efforts within Compuware to actually transform our own IT in serving the business. You know, when I came in as CEO of the company in July of last year, I had some very ambitious wants and desires as it related to basically all of the facets of the company and basically supporting the needs and issues within the mainframe market. So we changed sales, we changed marketing, we changed development, anything you can think of, support, and all of those factors fall then upon IT. IT has to respond, and the issues here internally for our CIO to be able to respond to those issues are probably no different than what our customers are feeling. Today I brought in Jim Bryan, and Jim, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Jim Bryan. I'm head of IT here at Compuware, head of operations and applications. I've been here about 18 years overall, and been in this position about a year.
So, you know, when I came in last July, and you know, you were the one who effectively had inherited all the decisions we've made over the last 40 years, right? Because we had been in business for 40 years of IT decisions, some of them good, some of them bad, probably all reasonably good at the time that they were made, but it definitely created a hairball. And you know, I've come in with expectations of being more agile, more nimble, much higher velocity. I'd like you to kind of share with the audience, you know, kind of the world before, and you trying to grapple with what do we do to put ourselves in a better position as an enterprise architecture to support the company.
Sure. The changes, it's a perfect storm of changes. We've gone through taking the company private, divesting all these business units. Any business unit that doesn't have directly to do with mainframe applications is split off to its own company. We've sold the building, we've consolidated to one floor as a much smaller company. And as the lead of IT, I have a budget. And so I'm trying to change spending my budget into investing my budget. If we're going to run as a smaller, leaner, more nimble company, we can't maintain the hairball that has grown up over 40 years. Compuware's had a lot of changes over those 40 years. We've grown, at some points, very large. Acquired lots of companies, split off other companies. You know, there's a lot of changes. So as you said, organically, everything IT related just grew and grew and grew. If you were to see a diagram of our applications, it looks more like a data diagram than an application diagram. You can't read it. There's just too much. It's a spider web, a hairball. Going forward, if we had to change, because of our changes and then some of the changes in the way you wanted to do business, have us do business with the rest of the company and not just be an isolated IT group taking orders, for instance. We had to change that dramatically. So in trying to figure out what to do with that hairball, we came up with what we're calling the Twoplatform IT.
For all those things that are basically not going to grant us a competitive advantage, we kind of looked at those things as how do we best, you know, do things that, you know, like things like HR or ERP. Right. I mean, doing those better than somebody else is not going to make us better in serving our customers. So in looking at kind of that two platform strategy, how did you handle those kind of functions within IT?
Yeah, so as we're going through all the applications we have, all the data shares, everything that we maintain, we tried to divide things into two categories. One, the category of things that are either proprietary to Compuware or really have a distinct competitive advantage that we maintain in-house and we keep tight control over, we run in-house.
To help us win in the market, better serve our customers. The things that really make us unique in ways that we value and our customers
As opposed to a commodity application like HR, for instance. No competitors can buy our product because we have a better HR system than somebody else's HR system. And there are a lot of cloud vendors that have great ERP, HR, finance, whatever. So it made sense for us to move all those types of applications into a cloud environment and let the experts in HR and finance write their applications, let them maintain them. So that frees up our IT department's time to do the other things, so they're not just spending all the time keeping the lights on.
So then for the things that became, you know, we viewed as being a competitive advantage, you know, you basically had the opportunity to either go into x86 or the mainframe or the combination of the two.
Right.
How did you decide? One, what did you decide? But two, why did you decide that?
For us, it was a no-brainer. We're lucky enough that we have a lot of experience with mainframes, so we understood the low incremental cost of having to change. If we're going to be a small, nimble company, there's going to be a lot of change, and we have an aggressive CEO that has a lot of projects he wants us to work on. And we can double the workload on a mainframe with very little incremental cost. Because once you have the environment set up, incremental costs are very low. In an x86 type environment, distributed server environment, incremental costs are high. If you want to add a new set of applications, you might buy a whole rack of servers and have to hire 10 people to maintain them and upgrade them and virus scan them and everything else. So if we had to be quick to change and be available to work with the other business units on important things that improve our business, we can't spend all the time maintaining these servers in the data center. So the mainframe made sense to that. It's cost effective, and we're able to react very quickly without setting up a new environment. We've got the environment. It's a scalable environment. We can do many things there at the same time. So you don't have to build a new environment every time you have a new application.
So we got this two-platform strategy. Anything that doesn't give us a competitive advantage, we just consume as a cloud service. Anything that does create a competitive advantage, we're doing on the mainframe, a platform that we've mastered. I mean, we do that rock solid, right? I mean, much, much better on the mainframe than we would be as it relates to the x86 or the open systems platform. But, you know, that sounds like heaven, right? I mean, that elegant simplicity, the agility that it creates. But it's got to be complicated to actually execute a strategy where you kind of go to one of those two paths and you get rid of the hairball. Could you talk about the complexity?
Sure. There's complexities in deciding what to put where, and we've already talked about how we made some of those decisions. Because we've divested the business units at the same time, there has been a great reduction in some of our data that we're doing. We're talking with the other business units that we've just split off from, and they're taking their data and we're keeping our data. But as we're deciding where to put things, the items that we need to put on the mainframe, because it offers us an advantage, there are many applications we can just put right there. But there are some that aren't necessarily certified to run on the IBM or on any mainframe environment. They may be certified to run on Linux, but not a Z Linux, for instance. So we've tried to open communications with the application vendors as well and talk to them about what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it, and participate with them, even if we're a test case, to show, you know, we've installed this in our environment. We just experimented with it. We didn't take no for an answer. They said, no, it's not certified. We said, well, let's try it. So we do it, and we share with them the fact that, yeah, you know, it does work. Can we help you to get it certified? Can we work with you through the process? And then we get the benefit of being able to put it on the environment we want to put it on, and they get the advantage of being able to sell it now. If they're certified in another environment, they may be able to sell more products. It's a win-win.
What's interesting about that is that, you know, in IT, to some degree, it's dominated by politics and people's prejudices around technologies. And, you know, there's a lot of people that love VCE and love, you know, the UCS and all these open system technologies.
Sure.
And in a lot of instances, they're trying to recreate mainframes within open systems. How did you avoid that? Or how did you get through the politics issue to settle on this two-platform strategy?
Right, that's a great question. A large part of it is through communication. We have a smaller staff now. Everybody has to work together. And the more they know about what they're doing, what's expected of them, so they can participate in the planning, participate in the decisions, then they feel more invested in making the decisions. And if they understand the business impact and the impact on our company, then they just naturally have tended to go the same direction. And in an enterprise architecture method, we're also working with the business units, say for the HR and finance. Their departments had to change just as much as ours did. So by involving the business people and the IT at the same time, they all came to the same conclusions, and there wasn't as much politics as there would have been without having them invested in the decisions.
And it's important that I think that people out there understand, as part of supporting you as the person that's running IT for the organization, and my responsibility as CEO, you know, I've been very vocal. Every 2 weeks, we're on basically a town hall session talking about our vision, our mission, our strategy, long-term goals, the plans that we're trying to execute. So it allows you, in a sense, a way to leverage that understanding amongst those people who are adults. I mean, the people in IT have got great minds. They're extremely intelligent about our business. They can bring forward ideas that are extremely helpful. We just need to do it in the right and best way to support the business. And, you know, getting to the conclusion of a two-platform strategy for us is definitely one that's making us more agile, more nimble, and increasing the velocity. So as we're trying to basically be better at, you know, doing kind of IT services in a traditional sense, I'm also asking you to do even more. I mean, and step up into a next order of value, if you will, for the business. And, you know, I see issues within the market that our customers are going to need us more and more to support them and learn more about what they're doing, not doing, so that we can be contributing factors in making sure that even though they're going through a substantial transformation of their own workforce, where they've got 70%, 80% of their application development staff in the mainframe that are changing over in the next 3-4 years, being replaced with people that are less experienced with the mainframe, we have a responsibility to them to be better at supporting them than we have necessarily in the past with traditional means, but using users that have used their products for 40 years. So it's much, much different.
Right.
So I'm expecting something different of you from an analytics standpoint. Could you talk a little bit about how you envision now IT changing at Compuware as time goes on, and how you're participating differently within the business to support people in sales and our customers even directly?
Sure. Well, the business analytics is the key to that. As we're completing this activity of making our company smaller and nimbler, and the IT department smaller and nimbler, and by making the items that we support faster to support, by having more in the cloud, having more in the mainframe, and getting rid of that x86 environment.
The hairball.
The hairball. That frees our IT staff to really spend more time involved in the analytics with the business units. The folks in sales and finance, they would always analyze their data, but IT can now become the brains of the analytics and participate with them in a holistic approach, because they're not spending all their time keeping the lights on.
So Jim, it's interesting that after going through some analysis and you settling on what is the right and best approach, that you pick the cloud and the mainframe, and we distinguish that between those things that don't give us competitive advantage, that it's better just to consume it as a cloud service, and the mainframe as being the home to things that do give us a competitive advantage. What makes that interesting is if you look at a company the size of Compuware, because we would be considered a small end mainframe customer. We're not the big guys. And if you listen to the analysts and the pundits, almost without exception, they will say that people of our size should not use a mainframe. That the right and best approach is probably a combination of the cloud and x86 platform, because the economics is better. Now, given that you've gone through that exercise and actually are completely contrarian to it, you've taken the actually opposite approach, I'd like to hear your perspective, because you are, in a sense, proving the analysts and the pundits wrong.
Yeah, I think when they do that analysis, they're only looking at one small piece. They're looking at your purchase of your hardware. All these platforms are expensive, whether you go in the cloud or you buy a data center full of servers or you buy a new mainframe. They're all expensive choices. The cost of change, that incremental change, because businesses change constantly. We've just talked about all the drastic changes we've had as a company. And you have to be nimble. You have to be able to react. So you have to really look at your incremental costs, your run rates. We use the phrase with the traditional data center of death by 1,000 paper cuts. We're always filling out new purchase requests for upgrades and maintenance agreements, and 1,000 here, 1,000. It adds up. There's a lot of incremental cost to maintain that traditional data center. Once you have the mainframe environment set up, the incremental costs of change are very low. We can double the workload that we run on the mainframe and not add any staff. And staff, of course, is the highest cost. So that frees our staff up to do all of the other activities that we talked about before. The traditional distributed server data center, the incremental cost is much higher. On the cloud side, with the business applications, if we decide we want to change an HR system, change a finance system, we just go to the cloud and buy a different one. So that change is fast, incrementally inexpensive.
So Jim, thank you very much. And just to kind of summarize the discussion, that I came in very aggressive in terms of how I wanted to change all facets of the business. And without question, IT had to raise up their capabilities to basically respond. And in looking at the hairball that we had created over 40 years, and also looking at the fact that we've got this mainframe platform that we've mastered. I mean, we do mainframe well, as most enterprise IT shops do. And we made the hard decisions to go to two platforms: a cloud, basically service consumption for everything that doesn't give us a competitive advantage. For everything that does, we run on a mainframe platform. That's where we invent, that's where we modernize our applications in terms of being able to better serve our customers. And in creating this kind of simple, elegant environment, it's allowed IT to rise up, right, and be able to do activities like analytics, like business intelligence to help us to better serve our customers that are going through themselves a very transformational time, a very disrupted time. So Jim, thank you, and thank all of you out there.